San Diego Police Emergency Valerie.
I need the cops over here right now.
San Diego 911, recommend.
I have, my husband is trying to attack me.
What address, ma'am? What address?
San Diego Emergency, this is Cadena.
This girl is outside my door with a gun, okay?
Somebody's outside. Don't hang up on me, okay?
Okay, the girl.
Someone's outside your door with a gun.
San Diego Police, Sally.
Yes, I have a big deal here.
San Diego Emergency Dispatcher, Frank.
I have someone in my house who's threatening.
I can't hear you.
I have someone in my house who's threatening to commit suicide.
San Diego Emergency, get the
Yes, ma'am. I'm here in the bookstore, but it's a little lady walked up the street and passed me, was crying, and the guy run behind her, and I believe he snatched her purse.
Hello, I'm Sarah Napoli, and I have the pleasure of serving as the President and CEO of the San Diego Police Foundation, and I am one of two co-hosts today for our session of Safety for All. I'm standing on the 4th floor of SDPD headquarters in downtown, and it's right outside the Communications Center where all the 911 calls come in. This session is about emergency response, and we are going to find out what happens when you call 911. Of course, at that time, you'll talk to a dispatcher, and here we'll meet a few of them. Pictures are slightly outdated, but of course you can see what a great family this is. I promise you we will meet several of them before we leave today. We could not have such a session without the generous support of many sponsors and donors. We thank the people and organizations that have helped us do this, and in particular, I want to give a call out to our anchor sponsors, and they are Adriana and Cristiano Amon. I know if you were here with me in person, you would give them a loud applause, so please do that by yourself. And our Catalyst sponsor, Qualcomm, cue the applause. I want to give a shout out to Barbie and Dan Spinazzola, and also to VCA Animal Hospitals of America, and of course, Securitas San Diego, USA. Thank you to everyone who has helped us present this to you today. Now, we also, a little later in the program, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. So be sure you watch your chat box and type them in, because we'll be answering as many questions as we can live right at the end of our program. Here we are in the Communications Center of SDPD, and this is an actual workplace. In fact, you may hear 911 calls coming in as we're visiting today, and we're grateful to SDPD for allowing us to come inside this facility. And now I'll have an opportunity to introduce my co-host. She is one of two operations managers here in the 911 call center, and her name is Mel Santagata. And Mel is the Police Dispatch Administrator, and great to be here with you. Thank you for being our expert on the floor and our co-host today.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to have you here, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity.
Oh, we're excited. In fact, let's just start with, how wide is the area that 911 calls come in right here?
So for the San Diego Police Department's 911 Center, we cover the entire city of San Diego. So if you are within the San Diego city limits and you dial 911, the call will come to our center, whether you need police, fire, or paramedics, as we are the primary safety answering point for the city of San Diego.
That's a big job.
Yes. We're the busiest communication center in the county. So the Sheriff's Department's jurisdiction is more vast in square mileage, but our city is more densely populated, and therefore we have the higher call volume.
When I call 911, what should I be prepared to answer?
So the first thing we're going to ask you is if you need police, fire, or paramedics. Since our communications center is the primary safety answering point for the city of San Diego, every call comes here on 911, and with a quick push of a button, we can transfer the call to the appropriate agency.
I have often wondered why the dispatcher might sound just a bit abrupt when they're on the phone.
Actually, we honestly hear that quite a bit. It's not that they mean to be that way. Dispatchers are trained to handle the calls in the most efficient way possible in order to get a citizen the help they need as quickly as we can. So they're trained to answer certain questions in a certain order, and we have to tailor our style of questioning for quick information gathering. So if the caller kind of starts to veer off and tell us the backstory story of what led up to today and to their call, we have to kind of, rein them in and hone in and ask them the questions that we need to pass on to the officers so that they respond in the most appropriate manner or know how urgently the call is. We may seem short, but we like to be efficient.
I need you to help me here so I can get a call started.
So 911 is for emergencies, and what we characterize as an emergency is something that is a potential threat to life, serious injury, a crime in progress, a crime just occurred, something that requires immediate emergency response. Other calls that are of a non-emergency nature, a loud party, maybe a crime that has occurred, such as I just came home from vacation and my house was burglarized. We don't need to rush over there, but it does need police attention, so that would be more of a non-emergency call. So it just depends on the immediate need for emergency response.
Well, I also want to ask about what I believe is a new service, text to 911?
Yes. So the entire county of San Diego went live with text to 911 this past January. The main goal with implementing text to 911 is to help the hearing impaired community or offer another option for someone who has a valid emergency but for their safety cannot speak, they're not physically able to speak, and we have ways for citizens to still reach us when they can't talk. So the message we want to get to the public on that is call if you can, but text if you must. So we really want to limit texting to the absolute need for that, because if you are able to speak, we can handle that call quickly and more efficiently than waiting for text messages to come back and forth. That delays getting details, and speaking when you can just expedites the whole process.
Call if you can, text if you must.
Yes, and that's the same message that went out to the public as soon as the whole county went live. So, and we intentionally had every agency in the county go live at the same time, because if you're living in Chula Vista but working in San Diego, and at home you text Chula Vista PD with a police issue that they need to address, and have that same expectation come into work and you witness a crime or a crash and you need to text 911, not having neighboring agencies all on the same page or all live at the same time, people will get confused or lost. Why isn't my text going through? Oh, well, San Diego PD didn't have it, but Chula Vista did. So to eliminate that confusion, the county moved as one to go live with text to 911.
And here I thought it was just for teenagers who are more comfortable texting.
No, we try to stay with those technological advancements and things like that. And other agencies in California and other counties in California have gone live prior to San Diego County. But we really want to discourage the use of text to 911 unless it's absolutely necessary.
So now that brings up the question, what is the difference in response time if you call from a landline or a cell phone?
So there shouldn't be any difference in response time other than it could be a technological glitch. If a signal, you can't get a cell phone signal to reach us. But if you call, the difference between the two as far as how the call is received, with a landline phone, we can tell as soon as the call comes in where that call is coming from. So if you call from within your residence on a landline phone and you cannot speak, we still get your address and phone number popped up directly on our screen. And this is for 911, not for non-emergency. If you dial 911 from a cell phone, we can't 100% tell where that call is coming from. So if you're on a cell phone and cannot speak, we have a map that will tell us where the closest cell phone tower is to where you're calling from. But we don't have an exact location of that cell phone. So that may take a little bit to locate before we can send response if we don't have a voice on the other end of the phone. We also talking about technological advancements. We have implemented a system called Rapid SOS where we can type in a phone number that has dialed 911 and get a fairly accurate location that way. So we are implementing more software programs that will allow us to use as a resource if we can't locate you on a cell phone.
That is so interesting, like everything here. Now, I understand there are at least 2 different varieties of civilian professional that work here in the Communications Center, some that are phone dispatchers and some that are radio dispatchers. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So our biggest classification of dispatcher is our phone dispatchers, our 911 dispatchers. They are the first voice as soon as you call the police, whether it be an emergency or non-emergency, you'll reach one of our 911 dispatchers. And that's this room here where every dispatcher here talks to the citizens who call in. Because we're such a large agency and have such a high call volume, our agency separates phone versus radio. So our radio dispatchers are the ones who, once the phone dispatcher takes the call, formats the event or call for service on the computer then routes it to the appropriate radio dispatcher to then dispatch it to the officers. So these dispatchers talk directly with citizens, the radio dispatchers talk directly with officers.
Of course, I've had so many questions and you've answered many of them. I want to remind the audience that you get a chance to ask your questions. Just type them into the chat as we go through the program today, and we'll answer as many of them live as we can. Now we're going to meet 3 dispatchers, and here's the first one.
911, what is the address of the emergency? I'm from Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. Moved out in 2016. I was tired of retail. Nothing wrong with it. I had done it for as long as I could. And I just kind of wanted something that had a little bit more meaning to it. This is something where I could help someone. You know, it's probably going to be exciting. I enjoy shift work, you know, knowing that I can work a day, night. So it's just a lot of different things, but mainly like knowing that I could, you know, help someone at the end of the day. Hi, this is 911. What is the address of the emergency? You can come in and it's just a day of just doing like routine calls, and then sometimes you have active shooters, you have just the pace can be different depending on the day. When I'm on a call and the caller is like upset or very frantic, but by the end they're thanking me, you know, for helping get them through the situation. So I do like that part. It's more than just answering the phone. You're helping get them through like sometimes the worst day of their life. So that feels good. It looks like officers responded out there on the 26th. Does that sound right? You know, if I were experiencing some of the things that they were experiencing, I'd be upset or, you know, all over the place too. But just trying to have compassion and understand their situation. That's how you know what to say in the moment. And you kind of like, I don't know, when I first started working here, I was like, I'm not going to know what to say with a suicidal caller, but you know what to say. They train you so well. You know exactly what to say and how to calm them. I think my personality, I'm kind of like shy, I don't really talk a lot, but doing this job, I've taught myself that I can command a space, I can control, you know, situations that are kind of going crazy, I can control it. Sometimes a suspect will call in, and I had just started my shift, and I just, you know, answered the phone, and he goes, I'm the one you're looking for. And I was like, okay, what are we looking for? And he said, I was shooting in the parking lot of Walmart. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I've just started, I'm trying to catch up with what he's talking about. And it was just such an interesting call because he was so remorseful, and it really like resonated with me that, you know, it's not our job to judge people with what they do, because we don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but it was just such an interesting call that sometimes it's not just the victim, it's not just the person who, you know, is calling in. Sometimes it's the suspect that calls in. But that one was interesting, and I've had an unfortunate call where a person did commit suicide, and he was just so kind. Your heart goes out to people because of what they're going through. So you just, like I mentioned earlier, try to have empathy and understanding and try to get them through what they're going through. So.
How do you decompress from something like that?
You have to just do fun things. Like I think one thing this job has taught me is you can't take anything for granted. So, you know, I try to do like fun, spontaneous things. You know what, I'm gonna go to Disneyland this weekend, or I'm gonna get my nails done, I'm gonna go shopping. You know, you just have to treat yourself well, because it's a tough job. It can like start to weigh on you, but you know, just do fun things, hang with family, talk to friends. If I need help, talk to someone, vent to someone. My sister, she's a nurse, so it's kind of like the same line of work, high stress, emergencies, those types of things. So she can understand. I like talking to my mom, because, you know, moms always understand. But yeah, and then also people who work here, because they know exactly what you're going through. If you like helping people, if it makes you feel good to know that you helped catch someone who was doing something they shouldn't have been doing, you know, this might be a good job for you.
Hello, my name is Jerry Hara, Captain for Police Communications. I lead, and I'm blessed to lead, a team of 180 dispatchers for our beautiful city. We are the busiest call center in all of San Diego County. Roughly about 1.4 million calls is what we're on task to get this year. Of that, 60% of those calls are 911 calls. And if I did my math roughly correctly, that's about 800,000 calls that are 911 calls, and we answer those calls in 15 seconds or less 95% of the time. That is a lot of people calling for help.
The medics are already on the way, but I'm going to get them on the phone so you can update them with that, okay?
I've been here twice now. So back in 2016, 911 was not performing quite as well as we wanted it to. There were a lot of things going on, morale-wise, staffing-wise, operationally. So what happened was, at the time, Chief Zimmerman asked me to come over and kind of rearrange stuff and make it almost like a patrol division. Take communications and make it just like a patrol division. And that's what we did together with all the team here. We rearranged a whole bunch of things, staffing, a lot of our performance. We gave new roles. So instead of everyone just being like an administrative dispatcher who answers 911, we have set dispatchers that answer 911, set dispatchers that answer administrative calls or non-emergency calls, but they also help with 911. So when it is really, you know, going off on 911, everyone is working together to keep San Diego safe. We went from one of the worst call centers to the highest performing call center. That year and the year after, we were Comm Center of the Year. We won Dispatcher of the Year and the Supervisory Leadership Award as well. So we're continuing to just get better and better, and it's not about working harder, it's always about working smarter, and that's what we strive to do. When a crime happens and a victim calls, who do they talk to first from the police department? They talk to a dispatcher. That dispatcher is going to be the very first person to get them paramedics, to get them a fire truck, or to get them a police officer. They are the first person, a dispatcher is the first person that talks to the victim to calm things down, to de-escalate the situation. They are the very first person who gets suspect information, suspect car information, direction of travel. They are the first police official trying to get that suspect in custody. That's why they're first responders, and that's why they're so important to the operation of the San Diego Police Department. And of course, if you didn't know, we are hiring. We are hiring, and it's a great paying job. So if you want to make a difference in San Diego, please come on by. We'd love to talk to you. We're looking for good customer service, community-minded people. We do want you to be technically savvy so that you can operate a computer, operate a keyboard, but really, the most important thing is your heart. We need people who care and want to help people.
San Diego Emergency, this is Jennifer. Do you need police, fire, or paramedics? Let me connect you.
One thing you may not know about 911 dispatchers is that they are considered first responders. We're going to play an edited 3-minute clip from the San Diego Police Department for you now so you can get a sense of how crucial the radio room dispatchers are in a police incident.
524 Zebra 10-4, 528.
You'll hear the dispatcher coordinating multiple activities as police take a suspect into custody while, at the same time, other officers search a riverbed and neighborhood for additional suspects with the assistance of K-9 and the police helicopter, known as Able, assisting in the search.
I'm with the gunpoint for giving command.
So far, giving commands at gunpoint. E31 Sam, can you 10-9 to 20?
14 or 4650 home.
4650 Hall.
26, can they advise which way they're facing so we avoid crossfire?
833 John, so far compliant. We're going to be towards the north end of the park in the canyon on the southeast-ish end.
Which direction are you facing on this hotspot?
All right, 31 Sam. I think it's probably going to be southeastern on the south side of this canyon, so if they could help out with that.
Southeastern is en route. Can we advise which direction we're facing on this hotspot so we're avoiding crossfire?
31 Sam, there's not really a crossfire because we're at the bottom of the canyon in the riverbed, but we are facing southbound.
In the riverbed, facing southbound.
821 Sam, I'm 97. You have all units drop code.
For 97 units to drop code for 4250 Hall.
All right, 31 Sam, we're taking the driver into custody. We have no idea which way the second or the passenger went.
Radio description?
Negative, the officer was focusing on the driver.
This is very possibly the Lexus from the home invasion earlier. Do we have a plate to confirm that?
31 Sam, that is the car from the southeastern case earlier today.
So I understand correctly, we have multiple suspects wanted for potentially 245, 459 from this morning. Can units call out their perimeter positions, and is Able available, and if not, can they launch and get here?
Able is launching. I've got 2925 who's going to take Ridge View Drive on the south perimeter. If there's other units on this perimeter, if you could call out position.
831 George, we're up on Ridgeview as well. Can anybody give a description of the suspects that bailed, and can anybody identify them?
Able, we're about 3 minutes out. Do we know how many are outstanding and any clothing descriptions?
1501, it was 3:36 in the morning when the guy answered his door. They were masked up with bandanas and dark clothing, and that's all he saw.
Number description from earlier was bandanas and dark clothing.
So we hiked it about 200 yards east in that flood channel. There's a big transient encampment down there, and there's no witnesses. Nobody saw anything down there, so heads up for K9.
Have our transient camp.
Or Able, if you don't mind just doing my K9 warnings for me, please. Able 10-4.
On the perimeter, putting out K9 warnings, and the contact team will be checking the apartment complex in the park, walking eastbound, flushing anyone in the riverbed. It'll be 1151s only due to no good description.
So now we're in the radio room. Tell me what goes on in here.
Sure. So this is a radio room as opposed to the phone room where the citizens dialing 911 speak directly to a 911 dispatcher. These dispatchers here speak directly to the officers. So once the call comes from the phone room into the radio room, these dispatchers here speak directly to the officers and dispatch those calls for service. So if you were home listening to your police scanner, these are the voices that you would hear on the other end of that scanner.
Oh, I see. Wow. So what is the difference in training between these two positions?
Well, whether you're hired for phone or radio, everyone goes through the phone training first because that's where the dispatchers learn their policies and procedures, their type codes, and get that foundation first of acclimating to this department and how we operate. And the radio dispatchers then, once they finish their 5 months of phone training, then they do another 5 months of radio training. So they have an additional, it could be up to a year's worth of training almost to get to work independently in the radio room. The additional skills that a radio dispatcher would need on top of what they've already been trained to learn in the phone room mainly do with how they interact, managing scenes, getting officers resources that they need. There are additional type codes that are specific to radio that you don't need in the phone room, like how to format a traffic stop, how to handle a large scene where officers need resources. Talking to the officer on the air is different than talking to a citizen on the phone, so they have to learn that radio protocol. They have to be quicker typists. The multitasking grows with the radio side versus the phone side. So officers taking someone into custody, in a vehicle pursuit, in a foot pursuit, asking for backup, cover calls, and those types of things, where they're managing the actual crime in progress or a larger scale event than would need to be handled by a phone dispatcher.
That gave me quite a picture. I feel like I'm learning so much just talking with you, Mel. And meanwhile, I want to ask the audience how smart they are. So if you will look at your screen, here's the question. How many languages can be serviced here in the Communications Center of SDPD? Take your best guess. How many languages? Okay, time's up. We're going to go to the second one. You'll see it on your screen. And the next thing we'd like to know is how many calls come into SDPD's Communications Center. How many calls come into the center on an annual basis? Take your guess. We'll tell you the answers later in the program, so stay with us. And now, right now, we'll get to meet one of the people that works here in the radio room. And let's meet that dispatcher now.
24 Zebra, if you can start for 10th and Broadway, 10851 hot call coming in. My name is Nancy. I've been with the department for 25 years. I started in the phone room answering 911 calls, and then career advanced to the radio room where I dispatched the officers. 122 King, if you can start for 1016, it'll be Faneuil and Garnett. I wanted something that I felt like I was giving back to the community. Felt like I was helping people. I wanted my kids to be proud of their mom, to say, my mom does this, and this is really cool. It is very rewarding, more rewarding than I ever thought it would be. I love helping the officers make their job easier. 522 Sam, can you be 10-4 on this 10851? I bet I dispatch maybe 200 or 300 a day. And they go from the block driveways to the neighbors arguing over the placement of their trash cans to I've shot my wife. It takes a minute to realize that you're affected. You didn't think you were until the next day or the next night when you're dreaming about it or still thinking about it, or see something that reminds you and you think, wow, this probably is something I want to talk to somebody about. You know your pod buddies. Somebody will be sitting there and there, and if I see them upset or off or just not their happy self, we check in on each other. It is definitely like a family. There's the quiet ones, there's the funny ones, there's the ones that always crack the jokes that keep us laughing, definitely. It's just like a family. Harry is a core trainer for the phone side. He also is a secret chocolate giver.
How did that get out? I'm retired military. And I think I chose this profession because I wanted to keep helping people. I wanted to be part of a larger organization, just utilize my skills as a leader and a trainer, and just helping people solve problems. I've been with San Diego Police Department for 17 years. It involves a lot of, being very assertive, sharpening your tone to get their attention, then drawing back once you have it so that they understand you're trying to help them and displaying some empathy. It is something that has to be developed in order to get the caller to calm down enough so that they can give you the information we need. I've learned, once they tell me that there's something urgent going on, I've just learned to say, I'm going to get you some help, let me get some information first. And that seems to help calm them down enough so that they focus on my questions. Also, if you're prepared with your questions by asking them one right after the other, they tend to focus on your questions rather than what they're looking at or what they're going through at the time. Because I use audio recordings of actual calls and I break them down for the trainees so that they understand this is how we obtain an exact location, this is how we confirm it, this is how we confirm the crime that occurred, this is how we get people's descriptions.
Was he tall or short?
He was about my height. I'm 6'3", he was about my height. He's almost eye level to me.
You're heavy, thin, medium?
Thin.
Thin, wearing what color shirt and pants?
White shirt, black jeans, I guess they're black pants, and black shoes.
Black shoes, okay, and a gun.
And a gun.
I break it down, pausing frequently to show them this is how the dispatcher sharpened their tone to get the person's attention, and then kind of softened it a little bit, to gain their cooperation and let them know that they're being helped.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just a little shaken up right now.
Okay.
When you've been doing this as long as I have, all the calls kind of blend in together. But I do know that just in the general sense, I know that there's people out there that need help, whether it's a child at risk. There are domestic violence victims that, are trying to regain control of their life away from their abuser. There are people who are mentally ill who feel like they have no control over their actions, over their thoughts, over their, over their feelings. So at the end of the call, when I give them some hope, when I give them some, help them feel less stressed, better able to deal with whatever they're going through, it feels really good. And I think that's, in a general sense, that's what I feel, and that's what I feel is the most rewarding.
521 John, what were the details about that 211 on Grape and Fur? Most days around here in downtown and up in Northern, it's a constant steady pace of radio calls.
No, the 211 gunpoint, lost of a wallet and phone.
10-4, thank you. Show me around. Dispatchers are great with putting out information. They're they're an essential lifeline to us working out in the field. Dispatch will give us details regarding what the particular subject on this call is doing, what they're wearing. They help us out a lot because sometimes calls just come in, such as hot calls, and hot calls are going in blind. Your blood pressure just starts rising up, and it's great having dispatchers because that's one thing off your mind. They focus on just information and getting it out to you in a timely fashion.
Well, Mel, we have met so many interesting people here doing such an important job, and that includes you. I'm just dying to ask you, how did you get into this work?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, it was actually a fluke. So I was attending college to become an accountant, and my current job at the time required me to start traveling, which I was not ready to do while going to school. So in needing to find another job, I had a cousin who worked here at the time who said, why don't you be a dispatcher? And I said, what's a dispatcher? You know, and he introduced me to kind of what they do and how they operate, and he actually had some recordings of him working the radio and that type of thing, and I said, why not give it a shot? But here I am 31 years later.
31
Still here,
years.
yes.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
yes, I love this career. It's been a wild ride, and I still have a minimum of 8 to 9 years to go, and but it's just a one-of-a-kind job that, you know, it's different than anything else I could imagine. And to think of being an accountant now on a 9-to-5 desk job, nothing really exciting, I'm not looking back. So yeah, it's been a wonderful career.
I'm so glad I asked you that. Thank you for telling us how you got started in this. I do have to ask 2 more questions because we promised to answer the poll questions for our audience. So, how many languages can be serviced here at the Communications Center?
So we have certified bilingual dispatchers, mainly Spanish speaking, that can handle Spanish speaking callers. And there are a few other languages that some of our dispatchers are certified by the city to translate for on a 911 call. But on top of that, we have a translator service that we contract with. So all that combined, we can service about 180 different languages.
180, okay. So if you tick that box, that was the right one.
Yes.
Well, how many calls come into this center on an annual basis?
We've been averaging 1.4 million calls a year for the last couple years.
1.4 million calls. That's like almost the number of people that live in the city.
Yes.
So I guess we've all called once, right?
At least.
That's an amazing number. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being our expert on the spot here today and allowing us to have this virtual tour inside SDPD at the Communications Center and introducing us to this amazing profession that these civilian professionals are pursuing here. And our city is better because of you and all who work with you. And we want to thank SDPD for allowing this.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. It's been my pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, we are wrapping up our Safety for All session today. But before we go, I want to let you know that this is brought to you by the generosity of individuals and organizations. And I know that health and safety often are among the things that we take for granted, except when they're threatened. And in the last year, both our health and safety have been threatened in an unprecedented way, and so we've learned to hold them precious. And so if you care about the safety of San Diego and would like to support Safety for All, I invite you to make a donation at our website. That's sdpolicefoundation.org. You can pick any button that says donate, and we would be very pleased to have a gift of any size. And I hope that you will join us for our next session of Safety for All. We are going to go to America's finest canine unit, and for all you dog lovers, I will look for you to join us on that date. And thank you once again to all of our sponsors for making possible this session and our series on Safety for All. And don't forget, both Mel and I will be back here to answer the questions that you have posed by typing in the chat. So stay with us for that, and we'll see you then.